Welcome to the People Leaders Podcast, the audio resource for managers and business leaders creating high-performing teams. Join leadership and team development experts Jan and Michelle Turkelson each week as they explore both subjects from every angle. Through practical tips, valuable insights, and compelling interviews with leadership experts around the world, you'll learn how to bring out the best in your staff and how to give your best as a leader.
Okay, Michelle, how you doing?
Very well, how are you?
Good. So, what are we going to talk about?
Being perfect.
Oh,
I was actually going to say about being me, but I am definitely not a perfectionist.
No. Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah. It's just, there's too much to enjoy in life. And I think that goes to the heart of some of the things that perfectionism does. It doesn't allow you to get the richness and the variety of life because you're too focused trying to be perfect.
That's right. And I think it's really important that you mentioned about the enjoyment because when you have this high kind of drive to be perfect, there is a high correlation between anxiety and also coronary heart disease with people who have this tendency. And so we're going to actually talk about the definition of perfectionism, and we're basing it around human synergistics research. And human synergistics research has gone on for about 40 years. PhDs, doctorates, a lot of research has gone into this tool. So we wanted to share some of these insights. And the reason why it's coming up for us is because we are getting a lot of people who have this tendency in people management, and we're finding that their ability to manage people is
severely restricted. Yeah, because if you are always looking for the perfect answer, you're never going to find it in someone else. And that's what we find managers who have this perfectionistic tendency tend to do, is actually take more and more on because nobody could do it as well as I could.
Yeah.
And then they find themselves like delving down into these rabbit holes where really they should be sort of lifting themselves up.
And so they become ineffective.
Absolutely.
And so the key focus is on task as opposed to people. And I heard this in a triad session the other day when one of the leaders talked about people versus task. And he said task is short-term focus, people is long-term focus.
Yeah, I'm going to use that.
Yeah, which is a good way of looking at it. And therefore it's not sustainable.
That's right.
And you don't lead tasks, you lead people.
That's right.
So
to get the tasks done.
That's right. So this perfectionistic style, it's characterized by really never wanting to make a mistake.
Yeah, and it's setting unrealistic goals and unlike, because some people think, no, but I want to do the best and be the best. It's not about that. It's not about attaining good results. It's about attaining the perfect answer or the perfect result.
That's right. Personally taking care of everything.
Yep, and there leads to the next one, which is creating self-induced stress.
Yeah, and the key, I think, fear for people who have this perfectionistic tendency is fear of failure. So it's not the fear of not looking good and looking bad and all that. It's failure. Yeah.
And when you just think about that, Jan, like, you know, if there is a real drive to not fail at something, you're never going to try. You are never going to step out of the box and do things different, look at things in a different way, be creative and curious, which we know leads to fantastic results.
Yeah. Innovation, creativity, and doing something different. Yeah. The key question that they're driven by is, what must I do to become perfect? So this is kind of like an unconscious for a lot of perfectionists. You know, this drives their behaviour.
Which leads to, what else must I do? Because I never achieve perfection. So it's always this underlying anxiety that is always there because I'm striving and not arriving.
That's right. And, you know, they think in the terms of the absolutes, you know, like I must and I don't have any choice.
That's
and,
right.
You know, I have to. So should we do a little bit of a checklist, Michelle?
Oh, we love a checklist.
Yeah.
Let's do a checklist.
So we're going to do a checklist of 10 key characteristics of a perfectionist and see how many you actually can tick off, or if you have a really strong tendency in some of them that you might want to have a look at flexing a little bit. Yeah?
That's great.
Okay. So the first one, do you feel driven to prove yourself? Do you rarely feel a true sense of accomplishment? So when you get something done, do you physically feel it in your gut, head and heart that you've accomplished it? The third one, do you frequently become irritated with what you perceive as incompetencies of others? So does something come up in you physically about that? Number 4, do you keep your dealings with others strictly on a professional level, meaning you don't really like emotions? And then the 5th, do you prefer not to do something if you can do it perfectly? Okay, the next, an excessive concern with avoiding making mistakes. Number 7, a preoccupation with detail that distorts perspective and judgment. A tendency to place excessive demands on self and other people. Repetitive, sometimes ritualistic behaviour. Right, that's it. And number 10?
Number 10, a tendency to attach your self-worth to the accomplishment of tasks.
That's right. Yeah. So it's the circumstances. It's not this internal feeling of or sense of achievement or satisfaction.
Right. That's right. And it's almost like nothing is ever good enough for perfectionists. And that's a real telltale sign, isn't it?
And what it does, it actually creates this environment of volatility and about looking good, as opposed to creating an environment of sustainability and doing good. So let's now, talk about what are some of the things that people can do if they are perfectionistic. Like how do you change this behavior? And first of all, you've got to recognize that you do have it. Yeah. Now, having some tendency of perfectionism is fine, right?
I know. So it's almost like a degree, isn't it? Because if you have a degree of wanting to attain a good result, you could, don't mistake that though for perfectionism. Because perfectionism is always, like you said, the best result, the absolute best. It's not about the best that I can do given the circumstances.
It's the resources.
It's the absolute. Like you said, it talks in absolutes, and life isn't like that.
Yeah. Someone also mentioned something about perfectionism. Their main goal is not to wanting or not to have it make a mistake. And so if you succeed, you get not making mistake. Whereas if you are more focused on achieving
a goal,
so if you are successful, you are going to achieve the goal. So that's the difference too. And so a lot of this is really unconscious for people, and that's why getting feedback and talking and doing a bit of checklist and seeing what these tendencies and these behaviors will actually allow you to actually start to think and say to yourself, okay, I might have a tendency of that. I'm going to get feedback around this, and if it's important for me to be effective, I'm going to change it, because the research shows that there is a correlation between your performance and this style. So your performance is going to be volatile, which I mentioned before, and your ability to resolve conflict.
Oh, you're going to be competitive. Am I better, faster, quicker, smarter than anybody else in the room? So that what that is going to do, that's going to reduce your ability to share information and to have a, collaborative working relationship with anybody.
That's
if
right.
You're always competing.
And you're going to be more reactive as opposed to proactive and interactive. And, how much do we hear now from organisations that we want people who can collaborate?
Oh, absolutely.
This is key. And especially with the technology and the complex problems that people are solving, this style is not going to work.
No.
In organisations that need to get things done.
When you think about it, it's so tunnel vision. And, to be creative, you can't be tunnel vision.
However, there is a correlation between...
there is a positive
correlation between salary, right, and having this style. Because some people really consider it to be a good thing, especially if you're managing someone, perhaps a doer, like a technician.
Absolutely, or a researcher.
Right. However, the impact on their health and their well-being.
That's right.
The other positive is the organisational level. So we find a lot of managers, key managers, have this style. However, the ones who are the kind of effective people leaders understand that this is their tendency and they have learnt to flex it. However, there is a strong negative correlation between your psychological health, your relationships, and even,
problem solving.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's not really something that you want a lot.
No. And even self-development. Perfectionists don't tend to have a positive correlation, do they, in self-development?
Okay, so let's have a look at some of the things that you can start to do. And when you're listening to that, to these suggestions, just see what comes up in you. Like, do you kind of, your body reacts to it, go, oh yeah, I could actually do that, or it is of interest?
That's right. And actually, before we go into that, maybe we could just talk to the perfectionists about what are some of the benefits that they can get by by maybe changing or flexing their style and being less perfectionistic. And one of them is like a more balanced life and more time for relaxation and fun.
Yeah.
Like, who wouldn't want that?
And when we say balanced life, there are going to be times and projects where you actually have to put in time for a project or a family, but balanced in the way in which you feel in your mind and body. It's not that high level anxiety.
Yeah, that's right. And the other one that I like is, the ability to accept failure and to learn from it. Falling forward is the phrase that I've heard people use.
And you're going to get a sense of relief that comes from recognizing that no one is or ever will be perfect.
Yeah, we're imperfectly perfect. And then healthier, more satisfying approach to life, because there will be that sense of balance.
Yeah, you will be happier.
Yeah, who doesn't want to be happier?
And that's the reason why we do pretty much everything, is in the hope or the want that we will be happier because of that.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at some of these suggestions. So first of all, it is this level of awareness and recognition that your drive to be perfect is self-defeating, and it's really rooted in your basic values about life, and when you can understand your origin of perfectionism, you can start to work with changing your behavior. So it's really asking yourself, what is it about me that wants to be perfect? What is it giving me? What is the benefit of me? So these are some of the things that you can develop a level of awareness around it. Yeah?
Yep. The other thing that you could do is catch yourself when you use the word should, ought, and must in your speech, because you can notice that. And the other thing is you can engage other people, like your partner at least in life. Yeah, that's right. To check in and notice when you are using those absolute terms.
Another aspect or perhaps strategy to start thinking about is to understand that your work is not your worth.
Yeah.
You are worthy because you are here. And when people hear that, some people actually get a little bit of a negative reaction because they've attached so much to their work life as opposed to a rich internal life, because that is something that you have control of and you can foster, and independent of whatever is happening in your world, you can actually manage that. And so your feelings of self-worth are not exclusively tied to your hard work or how effective you are on the job. It's
because circumstances will change, and standards will change, and expectations from people will change. Another one is, instead of lowering your standards, because when perfectionists hear that, they just switch off. It's actually just altering your standards just in one activity, and see if that makes a difference, and just see, did the results differ significantly? Me spending those extra 5 hours on this report as opposed to an extra 40 minutes, did it really have a significant impact? Because that's where perfectionists let themselves down, is they spend that excessive amount of time in the detail that doesn't really yield much
that's
in the
right.
end. Yeah.
And piggybacking on that is, try to be less hard on yourself and less demanding of others. And one way that you can catch yourself is your self-talk.
Yeah.
The quality of your self-talk is absolutely going to determine the quality and effectiveness of your behaviours. And so we recommend, talking to yourself like you would, having a 12-year-old son or daughter on a good day, how you would talk to them. Yeah. This is how you want to actually engage your mind and your brain when you're actually talking to yourself, encouraging, affirming, clear.
Oh, which leads to another one, which is, devote some time to developing better relationships at work. And if that means, if you're a people leader, somebody presents you with something that isn't 100% to your standard, think about the way that you would respond to them. Is it going to benefit our relationship by me picking out every single thing that is wrong here? And just flip it a couple of times and experiment with that.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of experimentation, so this is one activity that you can do that actually proves that sometimes you don't have to be good at something to enjoy it, because this is what perfectionists do.
Yeah.
So, and this is attempting to separate satisfaction from perfection.
Yeah.
So I want you to write down a list of activities, things like preparing a meal, writing a report, whether or not it's gardening, floral arrangement, anything that you do in, daily life. Could be swimming. Now rate that from 1 to 100 according to the satisfaction you feel when the activity is done, when you've completed it. Then I want you to rate each of those on the same scale, 0 to 100, according to how well you do them. And just see if there is a correlation. Do you derive the most satisfaction from doing a particular thing that you're not absolutely the best at? And so it actually proved to yourself, and it also demonstrates to your whole being, like your brain.
That you can do it. And the thing is, you've taken the pressure off yourself, and you've just enjoyed it for the pure joy of doing it.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Any more, Michelle?
Well, the last one,
oh yes,
perhaps if you really want to improve your performance as a people leader, would be to learn to delegate.
Absolutely. This is number one, because it demonstrates that you trust.
Yes, that's
that
right.
You are connecting, that you have respect, that you've thought about. There are so many benefits for delegating.
Exactly. And it gives you, the people that report to you, an opportunity to grow and to develop themselves. And as a people leader, that is your job.
Yeah. Now, the
significant part of your
isn't
job.
It interesting that when we say delegate, people say step back and let them work out the best way to do it. But sometimes people want to know, okay, give me the first step or 3 steps.
Yes.
You were saying that in a workshop the other day, Michelle.
Yeah, with sensors and intuits. An intuitive manager said, just go and create the new plan. But the sensor was, well, actually, I don't know how to create.
What do you mean?
What do you mean by create the new plan?
Right.
So, just go through the first 3 steps.
Yeah.
Hey, ask them.
Yes. Yeah. or actually give them a physical demonstration of what it would look like when it's completed.
Yeah.
And ask them, what would you need in order to be comfortable that you're on the right track?
Yeah.
It's
comes back to clarity again, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? And asking really good questions. So we really encourage you to be easy on yourself. Still hold standards, but be easy about it. Be kind to yourself, because that's really going to allow you to kind of create less resistance in the mind.
Yeah, and have a happier life.
Yeah. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah. Okay.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the People Leaders Podcast. For show notes and other resources, please visit us at peopleleaderspodcast.com. And while you're there, you can subscribe for future episodes so you can continue your own leadership journey. And please be sure to share this and other episodes with your friends and colleagues. The People Leaders Podcast is brought to you by the Experts on Air Podcast Network.